Who is observing all the thoughts and emotions within you? Who am I beyond the names and roles I assign myself? Who stands behind all these titles and claims them as me? Throughout life, we are surrounded by labels and stories. From birth, you are given a name, a role, and an identity. These seem to define who you are, but are they truly your essence? Or are they just layers you've put on? Imagine standing before a mirror. What you see is your face, body, and all the physical markers that define you in this world. But if you look deeper, do you see your true nature? Are you truly this body? Or is there something hidden beneath? Now, picture a vast ocean. On the surface, waves surge, each seemingly separate, with its own shape and cycle. But if you look deeper, you'll see that each wave is not separate from the ocean. It is an integral part, but not the whole. The wave is a temporary manifestation, but its essence is water, the endless ocean. You are like that wave. All that you think you are, your body, memories, emotions, identity are just fleeting manifestations on the surface. But you are not these waves. You are the ocean. If you are not your body, not your past memories, not the identity you claim, then what are you? The answer is not in what you can measure or define. It lies in your own infinite existence, something you have always been but have never truly realized. Let go of all that you once believed about yourself, your name, your role, the successes or failures you thought defined you. All of them are stories. In this video, we will peel back the layers of illusion that have hidden your true self. We will explore the self, consciousness, and the truth that you were never born and will never die. But first, let's ask the biggest question. If I am not my body, memories, or identity, then what am I? My friend, when you think about yourself, the first things that come to mind might be personal stories like what your name is, what you've done, what you've experienced. All of these form what you call yourself. But have you ever wondered who is telling this story? That is the ego. The ego is not a physical entity, it has no shape or size. Instead, it is the center of every story you tell yourself. The concept you use to define I. But is the ego truly you? Or is it just an illusion? The ego is formed from thoughts, emotions, and memories. It's like an invisible bag you carry, filled with beliefs about yourself. From a young age, you start building this bag, a compliment from a parent, a criticism from a teacher, a joyful or painful experience. All are collected and stored in the bag called me. Over time, you begin to identify with that bag. You think, I am capable or I am a failure. I am funny or I am shy. But stop and reflect, are these thoughts and memories truly you? They come, go, and change throughout different stages of life. If they change, how can they define who you are? Let's look at a real-world example. Suppose you experience a major failure at work. Your ego immediately jumps in and whispers, I am a failure. I am not good enough. These thoughts are not just words in your head, they carry emotions, sadness, shame, and even anger. These emotions begin to control your actions. You might withdraw, avoiding new opportunities out of fear, but look closer. Those thoughts are not the truth. They are just a way the ego reacts to protect itself, to maintain the story it has created about you. If you believe that story, you will be stuck in a loop of suffering. The ego not only limits you with negative thoughts, it is also the source of desire and comparison. It says, I will be happy if I get this, or I need to be better than others to feel worthy. But have you ever realized that even when you get what you want, you quickly move on to another goal? It is never satisfied. It is like a bottomless well, always needing to be filled but never full. Imagine you are watching a movie. You are completely engrossed in the story, feeling happy when the main character succeeds, sad when they fail. But then you realize it's just a movie. The characters are not real. It's just images on a screen. The ego is like the main character in a movie you create, initially from emotions, time, and energy to protect it. But when you look closely, you will see that it is just a story, a collection of fleeting thoughts and emotions. The biggest question here is, what would happen if you let go of the ego? It's not that you would lose your sense of self or become an anonymous person. Instead, you would realize that you are not the story you tell yourself. You are the awareness where that story appears and disappears. The ego is just a concept, a temporary construct that we identify with ourselves. But your true nature transcends all of that. It is not bound by thoughts, emotions, or memories. So if there is no ego, who would you be? This thought can be confusing at first, but it is also the door to true freedom. When no longer bound by the ego, you don't need to protect or prove your worth. You are no longer controlled by fear or ambition. Instead, you experience life fully as it is, without the veil of illusion, the truth of never having been born in a moment of stillness. You look back at your entire life, from the day you were born, your first memories, successes, failures, to this very moment. Everything seems to be shaped by the flow of time, a journey from a starting point to an end point. But what if everything you think about yourself, the story of being born and dying, is just an illusion? The idea that you were never born sounds paradoxical, but this is not a denial of the reality of your body or the world around you. Instead, it is a way to look deeper, beyond the surface of ordinary perception, to discover a timeless truth. Your true nature has no beginning, no end. Let's start by understanding the nature of time. Time as we experience it seems to be a sequence of events, past, present, future. We place ourselves in the flow, believing there is a starting point when we are born and an end point when we die. But does time really exist that way? Or is it just a way for the human mind to organize experiences to create meaning? Your true nature is not in time. It is awareness, which is the unchanging space where all experiences appear and disappear. It is like the sky above, whether sunny, rainy, or stormy. The sky remains vast and unaffected by what happens. Dark clouds leave, but the sky remains intact, unchanged. You are the sky, and the thoughts, emotions, and events in life are just like fleeting clouds. They appear, change, and then disappear, but your unchanging nature, vast awareness, is always present. You are not born with your roles or stories and do not disappear when they end. What you truly are always transcends all of that. Reflect on this. If you had no beginning, would the fear of an end still hold any meaning? We fear death because we believe it is the final point, the cessation of the self. But when you realize that the self is merely a story and you are the awareness in which that story unfolds, the fear dissipates. The philosopher Alan Watts once said, "What you truly are never begins and never ends. It's like the ocean, where each wave appears and then vanishes, but the water remains. You are the water, not the wave." To clarify further, try imagining a dream. In a dream, you can experience a full life, from birth, through growth, to death. But when you wake up, you realize that it was all just an illusion. No one was truly born or died in that dream. They were just fleeting manifestations in your mind. Life is similar. When you look deeply into your true nature, you will see that everything you think is me is just a manifestation in awareness. This awareness is not born with the body and does not vanish when the body perishes. Put aside all beliefs about who you are, where you came from, and where you are going. Instead, ask yourself, if I had no beginning, then why am I afraid of an end? This question is not just an intellectual game, it is a door to freedom. When you are no longer bound by the notion of time, you will see that every moment is a manifestation of eternal nature. You no longer need to rush to achieve something or escape something else. You simply are right now. In this moment, the truth that you were never born is not a denial of life. On the contrary, it is an affirmation that you are not limited by the stories you tell yourself. It frees you from fear and suffering, allowing you to live fully as yourself, an eternal, vast awareness, unbound by time or space. You are something infinite, unconstrained, unborn, and never dying. The illusion of ego and the power of awareness. Imagine you are standing in a room full of mirrors, each reflecting a different image. You are a father, a mother, a success, a failure, a humorous person, or a shy person. But in all those images, is there any image that is truly you? Or are they just temporary reflections depending on the mirror's angle? This is how the ego operates. It creates countless images of itself and convinces you that one of them is your true nature. But the ego is not you, it is just a collection of stories that you have unknowingly believed. The ego derives its power from our belief in it. From a young age, you were taught to build a story about yourself, whose child you are, what you are good at, what you must achieve to be recognized. Over time, this story becomes more complex. Every experience, every thought, every emotion is added, reinforcing what you call I. But what happens when this story is challenged? You may feel hurt, scared, or angry. This is how the ego protects itself, by making you believe that you cannot exist without it. The power of awareness. When you ask the question, who is feeling this emotion? You are returning to awareness, moving beyond the story the ego is telling. Try it when a strong emotion arises, such as anger or sadness. Stop and ask yourself, where is this emotion happening? Does it belong to anyone? You will notice that the emotion does not truly belong to you, it is just a fleeting phenomenon in your awareness. Breaking the illusion of ego. The ego exists as an illusion, and this illusion vanishes as soon as you look directly at it. It's like standing in front of a foggy mirror. At first, you only see distorted, chaotic reflections and think they are yourself. But when you wipe the surface clean, you realize that it's all just a reflection, not reality. The ego is like the dust on the mirror, obscuring your awareness. When you realize your true nature, this dust disappears, leaving clarity and brightness. Therefore, true freedom is not in possessing but in letting go. When you cling to the ego, you are bound by desires, fears, and the urge to protect yourself. But when you let go, you will see that life does not need a self to operate. Just as a river flows naturally without a guiding hand, you are also like the river. Your life unfolds naturally, without an egoic center controlling it. As Rumi once said, you are not a drop in the ocean but the entire ocean in a drop. This does not mean you have to give up your individuality or responsibilities, but rather that you realize your true nature is infinite and not bound by the stories of the ego. When you return to awareness, you are no longer controlled by the stories the ego tells. You begin to live in freedom, without needing to defend or prove your worth. Instead of clinging to what you think you are, you live as you are. And this freedom is not something you need to seek, it is your nature. Always present, always free. Living without ego, a natural state. When you live without being dominated by the ego, your actions are no longer pressured by thoughts like what will I get out of this? Or what will others think of me? Instead of being driven by desire or fear, your actions arise from the naturalness of the situation. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth or compare yourself to others. Think about how a bird builds a nest. It doesn't plan in detail. It doesn't wonder if its nest is more beautiful than another bird's nest. It just does what needs to be done naturally and completely. Humans also have the ability to live like that. Fully present in each moment, not distracted by the stories in your head. There's a common misconception that without an ego, we lose the ability to make decisions or that emotions would become meaningless. But the reality is the opposite. Without ego, decisions are made more naturally, unclouded by fear or personal bias. Imagine standing at a crossroads, trying to decide which way to go. If you're ego-driven, you'll worry about the consequences. What if I choose wrong? What will people think? But when you're not bound by ego, you simply choose the most suitable direction based on what you know at that moment. Decision-making becomes part of the flow, without struggle or doubt. The same applies to emotions. Without ego, emotions still arise. You still feel happy, sad, angry, or loving, but you no longer identify with those emotions. They no longer define you but are simply phenomena that come and go, like ripples on a lake. You feel them fully but are not swept away. Living without ego is not about abandoning life or becoming anonymous, it's about living with naturalness, lightness, and true freedom. It's realizing that you are not the stories you tell yourself, but the space where all stories unfold. When you live this way, you are no longer bound by worries or pressures. You become harmonious with the natural flow of life, as is your true nature. You are looking at a flower. When you are ego-driven, you don't truly see the flower. You only see your opinion of it. This flower is beautiful, but I've seen more beautiful flowers, or this flower reminds me of a sad memory. But when you let go of ego, you see the flower in its entirety, without judgment, without comparison. You are no longer stuck in your story, and thus you experience the flower fully. This also applies to your relationships with people. When ego no longer controls you, you no longer see others through the lens of expectations or judgments. You no longer need them to play a certain role to validate your worth. Instead, you are truly present with them, listening to them, and feeling a deep connection. When ego disappears, the boundary between self and other also dissolves. You begin to realize that we are all part of the same whole. You no longer see others as separate individuals but as different expressions of the same source. A flame lit from many different candles, although each candle has its own shape, size, and color. The light from the flame is the same, without distinction. Your true nature is also like this. It is not the candle but the light. When you free yourself from ego, you realize that you and everyone around you are part of the same light, different in form but unified in essence. This realization does not diminish your individual value, on the contrary. It deepens your appreciation for yourself and for everyone. You no longer need to protect or separate yourself. You understand that you are part of a larger connection, and this connection cannot be broken. Try closing your eyes and feeling your breath. When you don't attach yourself to any story, simply feeling the breath enter and exit, you realize that you don't need to do anything to be yourself. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to try. Your existence is already a miracle. What are you if not the self? After a deep journey of exploration, you might ask yourself, so if I am not the self, what am I really? The answer is not in adding anything but in letting go of everything that does not belong to you. Identities, memories, the emotions you once assigned to yourself are merely layers. They can come and go, but you do not. You are infinite awareness. Let's look back at this journey of ours. From realizing the ego is an illusion to understanding that you were never born and will never die, you have gradually peeled back the layers to see your true nature. You are not what you think, nor are you the stories you tell yourself. You are the silent space where all experiences appear and disappear. You are not the wave, you are the infinite ocean. Most of us believe that enlightenment is something in the future, a state we must achieve. But the truth is, you don't need to seek awareness. Your true nature has always been here, right now. This awareness is not something you can attain because you have never lost it. The only thing you need to do is realize that you have always been it. This freedom is not a state you need to seek but a truth you realize. You have always been yourself. An unchanging awareness, unaffected by the ripples of life. When you realize this, everything changes. It's not the external world that changes, but how you see the world changes. You no longer fear fluctuations, no longer get caught up in fleeting emotions or thoughts. You become light, natural, and in harmony with the flow of life. Let this message conclude our journey. You don't need to do anything to be yourself. Let go of all illusions, all the burdens you have carried. Freedom is not something you need to achieve, it is something you have always been. If you find this journey meaningful, please give H9 Radio a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. Please share this video with those you think are also seeking the truth, as this might be the door they need. Thank you for accompanying H9 Radio. Wishing you and your family good health.